Today is today, tonight, tomorrow, whatever is in your area. But tonight, we're about to talk about the most recent humiliation and embarrassment for the Democratic Party. And as you can see here, it's about the use of Latinx, or Latinx, or whatever. I mean, I hate this term. I'm Puerto Rican, I was born and raised in the United States, but I'm actually, Puerto Rican descent. And I'm bilingual. I can speak both languages fluently. So English is my first language, and Spanish is my second language. And the term Latinx is one of the most dumbest things I've ever heard for multiple reasons. We'll get into them throughout this video, but for now, this is the actual poll, the poll that they base this off of. But I'm gonna read the political article first, and then we'll come to the poll when needed. Hopefully, this won't bore you too much. Let's see. So this is the beginning of the article. Is it? Let me see. Is this big enough? Um, you can barely see it. Hold on. Let me try to make this a bit bigger. Let me see. That's better. As Democrats seek to reach out Latino voters in a more gender neutral way. By the way, if you want to use a gender neutral term, very simple. Use Hispanic or use Latino. That's your main gender neutral terms. There's no reason to make up a new one like called Latinx. It's stupid. A more gender neutral way, they've been increasingly begun using the word Latinx, a term that first began to get traction among academics and activists on the left. Latinx was shit out some lab in NYU probably, and everybody started using it ever since. That's my guess. What happened to why Latinx came out of nowhere basically. But that very effort could be counterproductive in courting those Latin American descent voters, according to a new nationwide poll of Hispanic voters, which is this poll here, which I'll get to some of it in a moment. By the way, I'll link both the article and the poll in the description box below. Only 2% of those only 2% of those polled refer to themselves as Latinx, while 68% of them themselves call themselves Hispanic, and 21% favor Latino or Latina to describe their ethnic background, according to the survey from Ben Dixon and Amandani, I don't know, International, a top Democratic firm specializing in Latino outreach. More problematic for Democrats, 40% said Latinx bothers or offends them. I'm one of them. 30% said they would be less likely to support a politician or organization that uses the term. And again, it offends me at the same time. I don't. If yeah, so if it offends me, I'll definitely be less likely to support that politician or organization that uses the term. Even though I just find it so offensive, and I'll explain why in a moment. At the time when Republicans appear to be making inroads among Latino voters, the survey results raises questions about how effectively the party is communicating with them. All right, make this clear. The Democrats are doing a horrible job in communicating with Latinos, and there's a reason for that. They come across as upper middle class or rich white people who have no idea how to communicate with the Hispanic community. None. Zero. They have no clue. They condescendingly come to us and say, "Hey, we want to be more inclusive, so we made up this new term to describe you called Latinx. So I hope you like it and enjoy it." It's so condescending that it boils me every time I hear a white asshole, use the term Latinx. The numbers suggest that using Latinx is a violation of the political Hippocratic Oath, which is first do no harm, electoral harm, blah blah blah. Say in the firm who advised President Obama's successful outreach nationwide in his two presidential campaigns. Why are we using a word that is preferred only by 2%, but is offended as many as 40%? Which I'll show you here. Let me see. Say, which of the following terms come closest to describing your ethnic background? 2%. Say Latinx. 2% right there. It's ridiculous. Pathetic. That Democrats think, oh, let's do something that only 2% of Hispanics actually like, which is Latinx. Let's refer to them as Latinx, even though only 2% of them actually like it, according to this poll. Now, let's go back to the article. Let's see, something else. All right, here we go. He emphasized that he wasn't blaming the erosion of Latino support for Democrats merely on the use of the word Latinx. Hispanic voters have started shifting to the right for a myriad of reasons. He said chiefly because of the more aggressive engagement from Republicans who have weaponized culture war issues at the margins with Hispanic voters. And what Democrats haven't what's what I'm looking for? They haven't weaponized culture war issues too. I mean that yeah, like they're innocent of that. Of course they're not. They're just guilty Republicans. But some Latinx, no, that's not important. Let me see. Here we go. While activists and academics for the past decade have actively supported and adopted Latinx, it has only been in recent years the term has grown in prominence and drawn pushback from those opposed to it usage as an alternative that doesn't follow the gender binary in Spanish language. Spanish language is it's gendered. There's what's called male pronouns and female pronouns. So male pronouns being Latino and stuff, and Hispanic and female pronouns, excuse me, is Latina, basically. You know, so you can't just add randomly X onto a word and expect it to catch on in Spanish. It's not going to happen. Politico actually explains it here. Spanish is a gendered language with nouns typically ending in A for feminine, try it again, and O for masculine words, Latino, Latina. You know. Masculine pronouns are typically prefaced with el or un, while female pronouns are used in articles like la or una, which is true. When referring to a group of mixed gender people, the language defaults to the masculine, Latino, which is a gender neutral term in Spanish. Those using Latinx argue that masculine words should not be the default when talking about mixed gender group. Again, you can't stick an X there in Spanish. It's a gendered language, as this Politico put it. It's a gendered language. So put you can't just put an X there and expect it to work. As it says here, but Spanish words do not end the letter X, which is pronounced as X. And some Spanish speakers argue it's tricky to know how to pronounce Latin X in their native tongue, which is true. Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce it. Like Latin X, is that what you want me to say? Here's the thing. There's another issue with that, which Politico doesn't mention. The term X has some has negative connotations in some Latin American countries. I know in Mexico, when you refer to someone as an X, it basically means that they're nobodies or they're not important, they don't matter. So it's slur. It's a slur. It's a I don't know about every country in the South America, Central America part of the world. If I know in Mexico that's true because I end up watching a lot of Mexican programming. So it in some communities it's used as a slur basically. So you can't just say Latin X and not gonna make people happy in certain parts of Latin America. So genius, white people, genius. Now let's see. I hear the term has become more politicized in recent years. In June, President Joe Biden was widely mocked by conservatives for saying that it's awful hard to get Latinx vaccinated as well. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Just say Latinos. I mean, come on. I mean, this is gender neutral. Latinos gender neutral in Spanish. So let's get off this Latinx bullshit. Republican Attorney General in Virginia, Jason Mijares, who is of Cuban descent and will be the first Hispanic to hold office in the state, said that the word Latinx turns off Latinos. Obviously, we all know that. Even people like Jason Mijares can figure it out. All right, that's another part of the article I wanted to read here. Where is it? Here it is. Natalie Reyes, the president and CEO of progressive group Latino Victory Project, says that Democrats are simply recognizing the complexity of the various terms in diverse terms in Hispanic communities, where some may not only use the term but prefer it. Really, who? Which communities, Hispanic communities like Latinx? Because again, I can show you the actual poll, which says only 4%. Let me change the color in this. In fact, here we go. Only 4% of 18 to 29-year-olds identify as Latinx. Again, because I think it's down here. Here we go. Christian Ramos, a Latino outreach specialist and Democratic strategist, said there's a generational split between young activists who very much identify as Latinx, and you have your general population that has no idea what the word means and finds it sort of mystifying and ridiculous, because it is. Even the younger activists, as she puts it, or is it he or she? I think it's a she, but no, it's a he. Sorry. Anyways, say even 18 and 29-year-olds, which you assume is your young activists, identify only 4% as Latinx. Majority of them identify as Hispanic, as you can see right there. So that's 18 and 29-year-olds. Now, 30 to 39-year-olds, which I'm 35, so I'm in that group. 71% identify as Hispanic, 20% is Latino or Latina, 3% 3% identify as Latinx or Latinx. I don't know here. 3%. I just butchered that. But yeah, it says 3% right there, as you can see. 3% identify as Latinx. 40 to 54-year-olds, 2%. So, where is this community of. Let me delete this. Sorry about that. Let's try that again with. Oops. Stupid. Only 3% identify as Latinx in my age group. I'm not one of them. 2% in your 40 to 54-year-olds. So let me change that to red. 0% apparently, as you can see here, 55 to 64-year-olds. And 1% 65 and plus. That must be an old abuela or abuelo that heard their child mention it or grandchild mention it and say, yeah, I identify as Latinx. That's what that is. There's no way that there's no way that they came up with that on their own. Sorry. And this is another funny part of the poll because it's which of the following terms use comes closest to describing your ethnic background. This is Democrat, Republican, Independent. 68% of Democrats identify Hispanic Democrats identify Hispanic, as you can see right there. I just discovered this, so I love using the squares and the lines and stuff here. 22% identifies Latino or Latina. Only 2% identifies Latinx. 2%, as you can see right there. 4% of Hispanics, Republicans, identify as Latinx. Republican is more Republican Hispanics identify as Latinx than Democrats. So this idea that it's ridiculous. The Democrats need to drop this Latinx thing. Seriously, now this is even funnier. Which of the following terms come to the closest describing your ethnic background? This is from U.S. born, as you can see, and foreign born. 71% of U.S. born identify as Hispanic. 17 as Latino. 2% as Latinx. 2. 9% is something else, 1% no answer. Meanwhile, foreign born Hispanics, 3% identify as Latinx. So more Hispanics that are born outside the US identify as Latinx than US born, even though the term mostly comes from the US. It just makes no sense. It's embarrassing. The Democrats need to drop this Latinx thing as soon as possible. Just to sit as soon as possible. Meanwhile, you have this is the part 40% of Hispanic voters say the use of the term Latinx bothers or offends them. So 40%, as you can see right there, as he highlighted. It's kind of misleading because it says 20% a lot, 11% says somewhat, and 9% a little. I'm more than 20%, honestly. I mean, it really just boggles my mind how anybody could just take that seriously. Like, there's no word in Spanish, as far as I know, ends in an X. So it's grammatically wrong. It makes no sense, and it's just horrible. I mean, it just annoys me to no end. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this video. I mean, this it drives me fucking crazy when these Democrats pretend that they know what Latinos want. Meanwhile, they're embarrassing themselves over and over again. I mean, with term Latinx and pretending somehow that's supposed to appeal to me as a Hispanic and or Latino. I don't identify Latinx, and there's plenty. Hell, people in my own family make fun of Latinx. Either they never heard of it, or if they have, they made fun of it. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just embarrassing that these rich white upper middle class Democrats think that Latinx that this term works, because it doesn't. It fucking doesn't. So yeah, so that's all I got for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. All my social medias will be down in the description box below. I also upload to Rumble and I also upload to Odyssey. So check that out, and those links will be in the description box below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.